Well, we'll get started. Sam Tucker can join us later if they can get in. I'm going to start your recording. Okay, good. It's Town Hall Building Committee. This is January 11th, 2022. It's just about 5 minutes after 6 p.m. We'll do roll call. I'll say your first name. If you would repeat your full name and say here, that would be great. Carolyn?
Carolyn Coffey here.
Garrett?
Garrett Lubitz here.
Wayne?
Wayne Sawchuck here.
Jason? Josiah, excuse me.
Josiah Stevenson here.
And Mark?
Mark Cameron here.
And Phil Lear here. Thank you. Any questions first? I'm sorry. I thought I heard somebody say something. So we need to talk about the mechanical design, specifically HVAC. We had a subcommittee meeting on this to get a presentation together. I think we have to make some decisions on it. There has been some changes. Don Pinella usually would do this presentation. He's not available. So Craig Gordon, who works under Don, is here tonight, and we have a slideshow. Do we have that available? And Craig, if you want to go ahead and give us that presentation, that'd be great.
Okay. See if this works. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, basically what happened at our meeting on Thursday is we kind of revisited the different system types. So we basically discussed the life cycle cost analysis, and we also kind of went into quite a discussion about refrigerants, when they're being phased out, what new refrigerants are coming down the pike, and how that impact our different choices. So basically, this I think is similar to part of these slides are what you guys probably saw when Dom initially did his presentation. So I'll just kind of quickly revisit it and give you some more information on some refrigerants and stuff like that we discussed on Thursday. So basically what we do is we look at different HVAC types and look to see which, over a 30-year period, which has the lowest combined savings to get the most efficient and advantageous system for your building. And we look at utility costs, maintenance costs, the initial construction costs, and usually the option with the greatest life cycle savings is the one that's recommended. And you'll see a slide later on that basically shows you the numbers that combine all of that analyze all of that. So we look at different system types. So this is our baseline HVAC system. It's a fan powered VAV system. It's still all electric. It has usually a very large unit because it circulates quite a bit of air, and it has moderate overall installed costs. It's going to be electric with DX cooling, and basically it's fairly noisy. It's usually the kind of system that you would see in most buildings, like commercial buildings. It's called a mixed air system. So it mixes air, it circulates a lot of air, and it has very large ductwork. And this is the system you would usually see. So this is the system we compare against. It's the baseline system. Okay, so this is the system that we are looking at right now. So this is a fan coil system. This is the one that the maintenance guys were thinking about which is similar to what you guys have now, the town hall now has a chiller mounted on grade in back of the stage. And what it does is it circulates chilled water to all of the fan coil units that are located in the individual spaces. And part of the disadvantages of that system is the fan unit is actually in the space, so there's quite a bit of noise. And there's a lot of this piping that's larger than the piping that we would have on the VRF system. So there's a higher cost associated with the piping. But it is pretty similar to what we're proposing. So it just uses chilled water instead of the refrigerant from the variable refrigerant flow system that we're proposing. So, okay, this is the system that we're proposing. This is the variable flow refrigerant VRF system. This is an all electric system. What this does is it's we're doing an air source VRF system. So in the wintertime, it actually absorbs energy from the air to heat the building. It's a heat pump. And in the summer, it rejects the energy to the air. So the reason why it's so efficient is because the air is the fuel. The energy content of the air is the fuel. So that's one of the reasons why this is such an efficient system. So the only energy we're using is to run the compressors to basically get the energy out of the air. So it's similar to the fan coil system, but what the town hall has now, it has the individual units in the space. The VRF units are usually a little bit quieter than the water source fan coil units like you have now. It has more complex temperature controls because it has to be serviced by the manufacturer, and we're providing a whole system that basically sees every unit, and then we'll train you guys on using that. This system has basically refrigerant piping run all through the building to connect all the different units. And that's part of what the maintenance guys were getting into with, if there's a refrigerant leak, what do you do? And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So that was their concern. That's why they wanted to go to back to the stay with what you have now for technology with the chilled water. So that's basically, we'll probably talk more about this system in our discussions later on here. So this system will also simultaneously heat and cool. So some of the spaces will be in cooling and some will be in heating. And that is really advantageous for comfort. Okay. All right. So so what we talked about and what the maintenance guys were really concerned about was what they're running into now with the old refrigerant, the R22 refrigerant, and how they just can't find a replacement for it. And you basically have to get a whole new unit. And what is happening with the refrigerant that we're proposing to use in the town hall VRF system is it's very slowly being phased out to the tune of like 10% a year. And what we learned at we had like one of the principals of one of the major reps talked to us on Thursday. And So he had a real inside knowledge on their system and what they're doing. And one of the things that they're doing, what we found, what we learned was, if we have to go to a different refrigerant, we can keep our piping, we can keep the units that are inside the indoor units, and all we need to do is change the condensing units that are outside. And it'll be a while before that has to happen because the R410A is being phased out at such a slow rate. And about the time that it may be advantageous to do that we would be changing our condensing units anyway, because they would have worn out and it would be time to get new ones. So when it comes time to get new ones, we'll just change refrigerant. And the only thing that changing refrigerant is going to make us do is the new refrigerant is very slightly flammable. So we need to know if there's a leak or any buildup. So every space will have to have a refrigerant detector. And we're talking 10 years or so down the road. So
And that's
that,
if, forgive me for interrupting, Craig, that's if they don't come up with a new refrigerant between now and then.
right. Right. See, they may come up with a new refrigerant that's not flammable.
That fits all the bills and isn't what they're calling slightly flammable.
Right. Right. So, right. We may be saved by technology. It's great to hear that we can keep a lot of our system and just change out the condensing unit, and our piping stays the same and the pressures are the same. So they're already on top of that. So
Yeah, one of the concerns that the facilities folks mentioned for everyone else's benefit is, I guess there's a couple of buildings that you have in town, and one of them runs on R22 refrigerant, and that runs at a lower pressure, and it's got a different oil base to it. And so even if you could get that oily substance out of the lines, if you could get them clean enough so that it would be compatible with one of these newer refrigerants, the newer refrigerants run at a higher pressure, and so those old lines, especially ones that have pinhole leaks and so forth, wouldn't be compatible with a higher pressure system. Whereas the newer replacement systems for R410A run basically at the same pressures. And so that's why Craig is saying that you could use the same lines. Correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, on that.
right, that's correct. And one of the things the maintenance guys were really concerned about was they have a building now that has VRF, and if there's a leak, it's very hard to find out where it's at. And what we're doing that's different from that building is we have isolation valves on every line, on every pipe set, so they can basically isolate the pipe and then pressure test it. So because we have isolation valves, we'll be able to more easily find out where the leaks are. Because that is one of the disadvantages of this system is you have small piping that's buried in the wall. It goes all over the place. And so when you have a system like this, you have to be real careful to protect your piping. Like not hanging pictures where the piping is running down in the walls and things like that. So I guess that's that. The manufacturer we're specifying around, or really all of them, are really, they know that they have this technology, this VRF technology. They know that they're eventually going to have to replace the refrigerant, and they're all looking into it. Some of them have already used the new refrigerants on their rooftop units, so they're certainly aware of it and they're working in that direction. So they're not going to just leave us hanging. And even with the R22, we knew that was coming, that was going to be phased out for a long time coming. So
according to the manufacturer's rep that we talked to last week, one of the reasons that they're phasing it out rather than just cutting it off is because what they're trying to create is an aftermarket for recycled 410A refrigerant. And that will encourage people that are working on these machines to reclaim it because it has value rather than just letting it bleed off into the atmosphere, which is one of the reasons that the main reason that they're phasing this product out. This is a replacement for an earlier Freon type product that you probably heard that was damaging the ozone. But apparently 410A, one of the things that concerns there is that it has global warming potential. And so they want to phase this one out as well because it's doing something else to the atmosphere. And so that's one of the reasons that I mentioned that between now and the time that you may need to do replacements 20 years from now, they may have something even better that will work in these systems. You know, we can't really see the future, but everybody that has these systems and works with these systems because they are so efficient understands, you know, where the future is on these refrigerants, and the idea is to make them even easier to use and easier to work on as the time goes on.
Okay, so we talked about refrigerants, and then we went and, okay, we already went through that. So then after that, we got into the life cycle cost analysis. So this is the life cycle cost analysis. This is comparing the different systems that I talked about earlier. And so the two systems that we're really thinking about now is the VRF system that we have currently designed, and then the chilled water based fan coil system that that like Town Hall has now, that the maintenance guys were thinking about. And there's a $215,000 difference in installed capital costs. And what happens is when we take and look at the utility costs and maintenance costs and all of that, replacement costs of the equipment, it's we have an instant payback with the VRF system that we're proposing, whereas we have a 4-year payback if we go with the chilled water fan coil system like they have at Town Hall now. And so, and if we do go with that system, we have ventilation units that are up in the attic. Those would basically stay the same. They would still be the air source VRF type units that give us the modulation that we're looking for. Whereas right. So what the difference in the cost mostly is the cost of the piping, because the piping would be a lot larger because now instead of refrigerant, we're moving around the building. Now we're moving chilled water and hot water around the building. So that's where the difference in capital costs is predominantly.
I think you guys said that the ductwork sizes would stay about the same between options 1 and 2. Is that right, Craig?
Right. The ductwork is the ventilation system, so that would stay the same.
And so the big difference would be the size of the piping. And then
Right.
we, from the architectural point of view, we need to make sure that we can accommodate those things around. And then the fan coils themselves, the terminal units, could we just do drop-in things in the ceiling, or are we going to be looking at cabinets or something like that?
The fan coil systems do not have they're not as flexible as the VRF system as far as styles and things like that. So I think we would run into some challenges with they do have drop-ins, but they're just not as stylish and sleek as the VRF systems.
And so we could certainly do cabinets that sit on the floor, and folks have seen these when you walk into a room and there's a cabinet sitting on the floor there. But we don't have a lot of extra space in this building, let's say, and a cabinet is going to take up a lot of wall space. They'd typically be underneath the windows, and things like desks and and other furnishings, we'd have trouble with having to accommodate those things. So putting them in the ceiling would be obviously the best choice. But not as many options, it sounds like.
So I talked to the facilities guys after the presentation. It definitely alleviated their biggest fear, which was the piping replacement issue that they're having right now at Deer Hill School. So Deer Hill's the location where you have R22, and it's a non-compatible refrigerant, the new refrigerant. So the piping can't be cleaned out enough to rerun the refrigerant or the new refrigerant. So that got rid of that fear for them. The other piece is the leaks. That's what they're experiencing at Wilcott. We're hoping that QA/QC on installation, being resident inspection, will help alleviate that issue as well. The other two things they mentioned after reading the presentation was making sure, and they're going to give me what they have currently, making sure that the control system is similar to the one they have currently in place. He didn't know exactly what it was, but he will get the name and get that to me. And lastly, his question was, I know we're going with the one that's the cheapest to install today, but why didn't we as a group really look at the one that has a better life cycle cost, which is option one, which is the one they would have chosen. And the reason being is even if the refrigerants don't change, if you have a leak, you lose your refrigerant and you have to recharge it, and there's a cost to that. If you're recharging it with water, there's no cost if there's a leak. That was the big takeaway from them.
Are these installed costs, what you're dealing with, or just equipment, or what's the left-hand side, the big number?
Yeah, the big number, that's the installed cost, the capital cost.
And that's a raw number, Wayne. It's the idea there is just so you can compare apples to apples. That may not be the exact cost of what you're going to get. That's not really. These numbers were looked at by our cost estimator as well as part of the kind of process that we went through when we were looking at the option 2 versus option 3. But all things being equal, this gives you a good idea about how they compare to one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
I think
Jason, just to in response to yours, option 2 is the lowest upfront cost versus.
Yeah, but it's got the lowest. Number one has the best life cycle cost. It's saving $700,000 over 30 years, and the other one's saving $560,000 over 30 years. And there's never a fear of the piping not being adequate because you're running water through it. So that.
But that one
fear
also
goes
has
away.
large ductwork in a existing.
I know. I'm not saying. I'm just. The question was.
Yeah.
That was the question they
And
asked.
the payback does not start for at least 4 years, whereas with the option 2, it starts right away.
Right.
Yeah, the differences there also, I'll point out, is that option 1 is gas-fired heating. And that's where a lot of your savings are coming from. If you wanted to compare apples to apples, you'd be talking about an electric boiler. And because option 2 is all electric. And so if you put the heat source in number 1 as an electric boiler so that you could kind of say that they were apples to apples, then your operating costs would go up substantially for your heating season. But option 1 gives you the option to do gas-fired heating to create that hot water, and that's what's included in there. So there's a gas cost in there, and that's based on today's gas costs. If gas costs stay down, you may realize something close to that $715. If gas prices go up, then those savings won't be realized. It's based on today. I mean, it's accelerated, it's escalated into the future, but just based on kind of a regular kind of rate of interest and growth. But if gas prices go through the roof, you're stuck with it.
electricity is going up dramatically as well. So
That is right. That is right. Yep.
we almost have to go.
Yeah, it is fossil fuel free though. Option 2 doesn't have any fossil fuels, which is one of the benefits, or I guess perceived benefits from your point of view of of option 2. And we could do that with option 1. And Dom mentioned that that was possible as well, but the numbers would change. And I think he made a note of that down at the bottom. Is that right?
Yeah, but I don't think he said what, he said that's a possibility. I don't think he put
All it
any
says
real
is
numbers
that-
to it.
Yeah, it just says that option 1 with a gas boiler, with an electric boiler, would be a higher annual utility cost. So.
Right.
He also notes in there that you could add refrigerant monitoring now, which would help to detect leaks earlier. And that he's guesstimating would be about $20,000 ad if that was something that you or indoor facilities thought was important to do.
The other one note on the side too was, it's great to say everybody's going to recycle this stuff, but 90% of the time when you go to demolish a unit, it's being demolished because it leaked and therefore there's no refrigerant left in it. Most people are not demolishing active, well-maintained systems. They usually have no refrigerant in them when they get to them, or very little. So
I guess that's what monitoring would kind of indicate early on.
So I guess, so the question is, and I'll bring it up, is whether we should stick with option 2 or whether we should make a change and go with option 1. Now, option 1 obviously has a little bit more capital cost in the beginning. And if you decided you wanted to go with an electric boiler, that would probably go up a little bit as well. I don't know exactly, but we could certainly find that out. The other issue is that changing at this kind of late stage, we're at about 80% working drawings now, changing at this late stage would mean basically a completely new redesign for the HVAC system for GGD, and then of course the electrical connections and the plumbing connections and so forth that go along with that.
And if the ducts get bigger for architectural as well.
Well, the ducts aren't going to change much, right? It's the piping that's changes.
It's the piping and trying to accommodate the piping,
Pipe
finding rooms
sizes
for
are
it.
going to change, and then the terminal units, exactly what the terminal units are going to be and where they're going to sit, and we'll have to coordinate all that. So there's a little bit of work for us to do as well. So in rough numbers, after going through that with Dom and Craig, the total fee impact would be about $30,000, and it would take us an additional month.
And just to note too, that the facility says they're fine with this, especially if there's the additional inspection done on the piping. They just wanted to make sure their concerns were heard. They are fine with the system as is, if that's the route the board decides to go.
Oh, so let me just clarify, Jason, you're saying that facilities would be okay with us staying with option 2 now that their concerns have been addressed? Is that what you're saying?
They don't love it, but they're okay with it.
Okay. Oh, well, that's good news from my point of view.
Yeah, because what we're trying to do is to really have a quality system. So we have the people doing the installation are been pre-qualified by the manufacturers. We're also inspecting the piping to make sure that it's installed properly and it has the right expansion compensation and things like that. So because this is basically blessed by the manufacturer, they want to make sure that it's being installed correctly.
I think given our cost estimate, I think we'll probably end up doing pre-qualification on the filed subs and the generals in any case. And we could talk to Steve and John at Vertex about that, but I bet we could add a question or two about VRF experience for the HVAC contractors as part of their pre-qualification process. We've done a number of these systems with GGD in the last 5 or 10 years, and we haven't we haven't had any issues or complaints from anyone in terms of their operation or leakage or problems with them not operating efficiently. Lots of our recent buildings have been LEED certified buildings, and we've had to kind of go back and make sure that they're operating the way that they were intended with commissioning agents and so forth. And we haven't found any issues with the installation quality or any of that in our recent projects that we've done with GGG that are very similar to what we're suggesting here for option 2.
So if we're going to stay with option 2, do we need a vote or anything? Are we fine?
You just need to tell us that it's okay to keep going, and we will keep going. We'll stay on schedule, and nothing else will change. If that's
Sounds
if
to
that's
me
the
like
answer.
that's, if as long as facilities has been heard and they're okay, without any more information than what you've said, adding the monitoring probably is money well spent. And it makes sense to just stay the course.
I will point out what one of the manufacturer's reps mentioned to us, that when they do change out refrigerants 10, 20 years from now, and if they do end up using a refrigerant that has this mild flammability, they probably will require monitoring. And if they do, that will probably be written into the codes. Because that code hasn't been written, we don't know if the monitoring design that we do now will meet that future code because it hasn't been published yet. So that was kind of a caveat that Dominic mentioned that we should keep in mind. You may spend this $20,000, and then if at a later date you do end up having to do a monitoring system because you change out your refrigerant, you'll have the conduit there and so forth to pull wire, but it may be that you will certainly have to change out the sensors at the ends, but you may, what it gets wired back to, whether it goes to the fire alarm system or whether it goes to trouble or how the notification goes, those things could change in the future.
It still makes sense to do it if it's going to help make the any leaks perceivable, earlier, so that you don't lose all of your refrigerant, and presumably, the payback will be there if in fact you have a leak. It's like an insurance policy.
I agree with that also, because if that person putting up the picture and we have the monitoring, we're going to have almost an immediate situation where you can correct it. Otherwise, the person does go home and we don't find it for a long time.
You might pay that just in replacing lost refrigerant and trying to find the leak.
Well, this
Okay.
sounds kind of easy. I think we thought we were going to talk about changing systems here midstream and a total redesign. It sounds like facilities is okay with our current design, and I don't see anything that's forcing our hand at this point, Phil. So unless somebody else has any other comments. I know, Mark, you've worked with these systems. Do you have any? You like this current system that we're putting in, correct? You have any comments on it?
Yeah, I think it's a system that makes sense for the building. I think that the detection is probably a worthwhile investment. And then we can, whatever the future holds for it, as far as retrofitting that to make sure it's up to date. You can't plan for everything, but something will be in place, and for the future, if that refrigerant monitoring becomes a requirement. And again, I think this is the right system for the building and for our project.
Is there anybody that has any negative comments about this system or concerns about it beyond what the facilities have brought up? Well, there you go.
So
I don't, we're not making changes, so I don't think we need to have a vote. Everybody's in consensus with continuing where we are, or, excuse me, the path we're on with the HVAC.
with the exception of monitoring, if you'd like us to do that, I'd like you to give us some direction on that.
So I think it's something we probably need to do, but I'm guessing we need a number and have to vote on it.
GGD has estimated that it's going to be worth about $20,000 to add that. That's a construction cost. Given that it's $20,000, I'm going to go out on a limb here. Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, and say that GGD is not going to charge you to do that design work. Is that right, Craig?
Right.
So there you go. That's a freebie. So you just need to authorize us to do that, and we will add that to the system.
Okay.
I move that we add a refrigerant detection system to our HVAC plans.
Leak detection system.
Leak detection. All right, we got that. I guess we have to take a formal vote. Wayne,
I'm in favor.
Garrett,
In favor.
and Josiah,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Great. And I'm a yes, that's unanimous. So we're staying with the existing system and we're adding a monitoring system to this system. Cool. Anything else we need, Phil, on that?
No, if there's no other questions for Craig, I'd suggest we let him go.
Thanks, Craig.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
Craig.
Okay. Have a great evening, you guys.
You
All
too.
right. Bye.
I know. Okay, that was too easy. Jason, thank you for following up with facilities on that. But made this a lot easier than I thought it was going to go. So it's good. Good news.
I was almost gonna just interrupt the presentation and cut to the punchline, but I wanted everybody to hear it if we're gonna hear it.
Yeah, no, it's important to hear it all out. Yeah. Well, we spent a lot of time discussing it. Kind of guessing that we would have to change midstream and redesign the whole thing. And that's a little bit scary at this point when you're above 75% design. So this is good news. The next thing I have on here is building design comments. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Michelle, maybe you can help me.
So I think there's I've received several emails from different board members that have comments regarding the design. And I think that I just wanted everyone to have the opportunity to kind of air their concerns after looking at the plans and see where it checks out.
Can I ask that those emails be sent to us so that we can go through them, just to make sure that we don't miss anything?
Sure.
Thank you. We did get some comments from Jason. And that is, I think, all. I don't know if you got anything that I missed, Natalie, but I think that's all we've gotten so far. On this, this is comments on the 70.
Yeah, I haven't received anything.
Yeah, this is comments on the 75% documents that we shared with you.
So, do we have something to look at tonight, Michelle? Some comments to review or no? Or is it
No,
just?
I think it was the same plan. And I know Wayne had some comments that he wanted to discuss. So it's the plans that we shared a couple weeks ago.
If there's anything that requires a plan, I could certainly pull up my copy of the 75% and go over it if there was something that we needed to based on the comments or concerns that are raised.
I have some that are just a simple question but a very important question, like, are we sprinklering the building? And if we
Yes.
are, there's no drawings on this on sprinkler system that I could find.
Oh, there should be fire protection drawings. That's odd.
You could tell me what page it is. I'd be happy to discuss it. But
They're
on the
called the
floor plan,
FP.
on the layouts, for instance, for the new basement, there's no designation for a sprinkler room. And I'm sure it has to have one. There's one drawing of a backflow preventer without size that I'm sure is going to go with the sprinkler system. no entrance into the building for a sprinkler system. So it looks like no one has, unless
I'm
you
looking
can
at our
tell.
set right now, Wayne, I'm sorry. Yeah, it looks like it goes directly from plumbing to mechanical.
From structural to plumbing.
Yeah, all
we
right.
do-
We'll straighten that out. For some reason, it's not in that set. We'll send that to you.
Yeah, what area would it be? Would it be under plumbing or would it be
It
under?
would be fire protection before plumbing.
Okay, well, I have
Drawings.
the set that I thought was the latest set, but
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually, if you look on the front cover of the drawings, the fire protection is listed right after structural, right before plumbing. There are 4 drawings there listed, but they are not in the set that I'm looking at either. For some reason, they got left out. But as you said, better now than during bidding. We'll send those to you. I apologize for that.
okay. The next thing is some things that are just don't make sense to me. And one would be, for instance, to bring a 2-inch water line from the street all the way to the right-hand side, all the way around the back of the building, go in the back of the building, instead of putting a 2-inch water service for domestic water in the front of the existing old building where there happens to be another service that would be enlarged, because it's serving the bathrooms that are in the auditorium. And the design of the plumbing is that there's a 2-inch line going from the back to the front anyway. So I look at that and say, that's thousands of dollars in trenching and everything else to go around the building. The next one is the sewer service. The sewer service in the back is showing that it is going to drain from the basement floor for a couple of floor drains and go out the back of the building and go into, doesn't show what it's going into, but there is a sewer pipe in the back of the building. But the new foundation is obviously 4.5 feet or so deeper than the existing foundation. And the sewer service out back is not as deep as it can handle the existing foundation depth, but not 4 feet more. And in the remove everything from the site plan, you're asking to go ahead and take out all conduits, everything that's in the parking lot that's coming to the building now, to get rid of it. And to me, there's so much involved with that, because in one thing under the electric, it says keep electric manhole in the parking lot. On the other plan, it says tear everything out right to across the street to the telephone pole. I think that just is not the way it should be, I think. The electric conduit's going to the existing transformer, which is 150 kW transformer and might have to be larger, I think should stay right in its existing place, because it's already there. It's outside the new building. It's outside the existing building. And why do you want to take that out when it has existing duct banks and go ahead, tear it all out, it says, and then put it all back in new? I don't.
That's the transformer, Wayne? I'm sorry. Is that what you said?
That's under in the electrical stuff, you'll see, or the site plan, I guess, like C1.0. This is the thing that's filled with all the X's telling you to remove it.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why you're removing it. And then, like I say, when you go to the drawing of putting it in, the new one's going right where it is, but they've already put notes in here to keep the existing electric manhole that's in the corner. In other words, I could, so the second thing is where there has to be a decision on the generator, because on the electric page concerning the generator, it's showing in one case an automatic transfer switch, and another case a manual switch with putting a temporary generator. The size of the gen is 300 kW. That would be recommended for the entire building. The amount needed just for the fire safety and everything else is 100 amps. And I suggested, why don't you go ahead and put in a smaller generator that handles all the emergency stuff, as well as lights and certain things so that the building could be occupied. And not get into a $250,000 deal and get into a $50,000 deal. So but the decision has to be made is, are you doing option one, putting a new generator in? And by the way, I don't like where the generator is going because it's going into the residential portion of the property behind the building. And I don't know why that would be the case at all. You certainly would want to keep it away from private residences and the church. So the keeping the electric where it is provides you a source of power for you to do the whole building, all the renovations and everything, instead of trying to go ahead and go from across the street and try to put up a post, a pole or something like that and run all the extension cords for something that isn't going to give you the power that you're going to need for portable heaters and air conditioners and things like that for the construction activities. So I'd
Wayne?
like to look at that electric a little bit closer.
Do you have a suggestion for where the generator can go?
Well, what I want to do is to get rid of the 3 handicap spaces on the back and extend that into a little utility area so that you could have a generator there, some more air handlers if necessary, and keep it to the back of the building. And then take the 3 parking spots in the front and make them all 3 handicap spaces to replace the other 3 handicap spaces in the back. Because that's where people are going to be going, as I've said previously, to go to the town hall, to vote, to do everything like that. Those people want to be near the entrance of the old town hall and yet be close enough to the new town hall that can conduct business there. And the spaces.
So are you thinking that the spaces, the handicap spaces should be street side?
Yes, definitely. And the design should be that because they're parallel, you want to make sure that you have the space that you need on the sidewalk side so that the sidewalk and the handicap space, I think, very close to what Jason has done now with the spaces in the front, except those would be relocated a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and that's where the ramp is at grade level at that point, and then it goes up on one side and goes up on the other side. So that to me is a perfect spot for it.
And if we do that, then we wouldn't need the ramp coming up around the back of the building, right?
That's what I think. And I think that would be great to get rid of that because it is
That would save a lot of money.
Difficult to maintain. And we don't have to put, make it granite a brick or this or that. And you've got the space to do that. And I'd rather have a sidewalk at ground level for snow removal and for everything else. And then we're not putting a ramp next to a finished surface so that we're going to have rot and stuff like that against the wood when the ramp is up at a higher level.
Yeah, we're going to need a ramp in order to get folks from the site up to the floor level.
It's right from the front of the building. You're going right, going up the ramp, and you're going left to the old building. That's the way the design is today. But why would you, if you're going to vote, park in the back, go up in front of the new addition, go across that level, then ramp down, go a little further and ramp up and go in the door that you're supposed to go in?
Oh, if you're trying to get into the hall, into the auditorium.
Right.
I agree. I think that those parking spaces, we talked about making those 3 spaces on the street universally accessible. But I don't think that would preclude the code requirement of having spaces on site that are accessible as well.
Right. You could make them handicap because there is enough. Today, there are more handicap placards than I've ever seen in my life. And so the need, people have those needs. I want to go on a little further though.
Sure.
A big aspect that I don't, in the last go around 3 or 4 years ago, when I went through the things, we were well over $250,000 for the estimate to put the wall against the existing town hall where the wall is now and the existing foundation. What we're going to be doing is going down 4 feet lower than the existing foundation against the town hall building. And there's nothing in here that gives any detail on how that's going to happen. But you're going to have the elevator right against the wall and everything. When you look at the drawing, it looks simple. It's just a little foundation, as if the town hall today has a foundation that is deep enough to be able to go down the 12 feet that you want to go down, and it currently goes down 8 feet 6 inches. So you've got 4 feet more to undermine the existing town hall building that isn't addressed properly, I think, in this drawing. And I think it's just going to absolutely pull us out for a major, extra charge. And secondly, there's been in the past, there's a desire not to go inside and do anything in the existing town hall basement because we're afraid that the foundation's going to go in. And that's to go in just a foot or two below its existing service. So so I had the generator, the foundation depth. I think that it's really a serious thing. And then the plumbing that is designed, there's going to have to be a pump from the back of the existing, from the new addition to the front of the building. And I'm recommending that we put a new sewer service, if you want, going in the front, because you've got all the bathrooms and everything in the front of the old town hall. And that would be a short run to connect that up. And then in the back, you could keep the sewer connection that's in the back for the stuff that's in the back because it's already there. And I didn't note that on the plan, it showed the sewer line that comes around the back of the building that also serves 2 residences on the right-hand side of the town hall parking lot. So that's something that has to actually be protected. And there's a manhole in the corner by the electric manhole that goes to. And of course, someone has to pull the cover up and check the invert of it so that we know if they're putting a pipe out the back of the building, it's going to be able to go gravity to that manhole. So under plumbing, I guess, I don't know where you put a sewer line, but it should be addressed a little bit. You can't just say in the back of the building now, it shows 2 places where the sewer pipe's going out, but it doesn't say where it's going to. And I think that has to be notified on the plan. How am I doing so far?
I'm trying to keep track. Civil shows sanitary manholes to pick up both of those lines on.
So the elevator by the town hall, the common elevator. I don't. That's another case where the elevator has to go down into the bottom, but now the elevator isn't down to the 12-foot space. It's going to be down another couple of feet because it has to have the space underneath the elevator going down. So now that's putting you another couple of feet lower. So you're going to be down to the 5 and 6 feet below the existing foundation basement floor. And there's a in your general notes under the structural engineer, there's several things in here. One in particular that says foundations. And I'll read it, and it'll say that it has to be 1.5 tons per square foot based on the procedural report dated XXXX and prepared by XXXX. If that report isn't in existence in the bidding, someone's going to have a lot of questions, because how are they going to determine whether or not the existing gravel base in there is capable of supporting your new foundation? That's on S1.1.
Yeah, that's a placeholder for the geotech report, which we haven't at the time had.
And the other one was S2.1, which shows the elevator, and it shows the, this is just so deceiving because it's showing the wall, the existing wall going up there with the opening and stuff, and it's showing the dotted wall as if you're going to go against that in that spot, and you're somehow the space in the middle of the square there, center of the elevator, is going to be capable of being used. Because the foundation wall of the town hall doesn't go down the depth of the other part of it. That should be showing a new foundation across the back of the building, right?
I'm trying to catch up to where you are. You're looking on the structural drawings?
2.1.
2.1?
2.1, yep.
Yeah, they just put a note for now that says underpinning will be required, but they didn't provide a detail yet.
Yeah, the detail's not on there yet. But
So the only question really is it costed? Because obviously the detail's coming, but
That
the
I think
contractor.
it was estimated $250,000 for the last, when we went out to get prices from the last edition that was going to be added on there.
So that sounds like an allowance, and it seems a little expensive to me. So
Yeah.
we'll try to nail down the detail with the structural engineer so that we have a better understanding about what we're doing. Our new basement is about 2 feet lower than your existing basement, rather than 4 feet. But you're right, the elevator pit does go down from there.
Why does it say on your drawing that it is 0, is the first floor elevation? Basement now it says minus 8.3. Okay, and then it says new minus 12 feet. Now I guess it includes the distance between the thickness of the floor. If the
And where do
floor
you
is
see that? I'm sorry. Because the structural drawings say that the basement is minus 12, whereas the first floor is 0. And right now you're now the existing basement's minus 10, isn't that right, Natalie?
says
So
8.3.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
8'3", I don't know where that is. Is that could be inside the existing building?
There is a step, you have to step up from the existing basement into
Under the older
original
building.
Old Town Hall, but yeah.
That's about 8 feet floor to floor. But I don't-
It's about 7, less than 7.
the ceiling
No,
height is
sorry, floor to floor, yes, that's right.
about 8 feet. Right?
It's about 6'9", 6'7" is the ceiling height.
And so you're seeing that on one of the architectural drawings, Wayne?
Yeah, it's on let's see if it,
Yeah. Okay. On A 4.1, it says that the existing basement is minus 8.3 and the new basement is minus 12.
Yeah,
But the existing addition is basically
Minus
in the
10.
same nomenclature is at minus 10.
Right.
So the new basement is 2 feet lower than
but
Then
you've
the
got
addition in
to remember that if you look at the drawings for the basement, it's going down a couple of feet to the footing. And so you got to go down that depth.
yes.
If you scale it, that's a couple of more feet,
Yes.
right?
Yep. Which I'm just going to coordinate.
And so you have a stone wall foundation on the town hall, granite and stone, that is clearly not going to be going down that depth. And how are you going to support that stone wall and have a foundation poured against it, a one-sided foundation or footings?
Yeah.
It is a serious major thing.
No, you're right. It's going to need to be underpinned. That's right.
And it's horrendously expensive. I was looking to say, gee, maybe if you move the elevator to the right side and the 2 bathrooms on the right side and had the room in there, you could be able to have room to put a foundation under the existing foundation and then go up with a wall.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is what we have today the wall we have today should be supported, I think, because it's going to be interwoven with the existing town hall foundation.
I think I think that wall has already been underpinned. And so I
Yeah.
think the cost that's in the cost estimate probably assumes that you're trying to underpin a rubble foundation, which is very difficult to do, as you know.
But you're gonna have to underpin that foundation.
But if you underpin the concrete that's already underpinning that existing foundation wall, that's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot easier to do.
If it is,
Yes, you're right.
right? And
Yep.
that if is so important to know. In other words,
Yeah.
if you went in there now and did a couple of observation holes and went down and saw exactly what's below it, although in some cases, you probably want to go in the inside and do a hole and try to look underneath the existing foundation.
Yeah, the estimate does carry underpinning.
Yeah, that's what Wayne was saying. It's like $250,000 or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. It's 225.
So we could talk to Vertex about trying to do.
But
a
it is
test.
allowance. It says allowance on it.
That's a significant undertaking, but it may.
And by the way, an allowance is an allowance.
That's right.
Firm price.
That's
No one
correct.
can give you a firm price on it.
Well, the bid documents will require that the contractor give us a fixed price to underpin that entire wall. And so they'll have to carry something, but you're right, without knowing what it is, they may be conservative and carry a higher number. So if we can do a better job at quantifying exactly what needs to be done, I think we could reduce that cost. I think you're probably right. Let us talk to structural a little bit more and find out if there's anything we can do to get a better idea about the actual scope that's going to be required there.
Yeah. Now, there's some other things in here that are totally new to me. And one has to do with, apparently there are going to be antennas on the building for the police and the fire department. Is that something that anybody has heard of?
This is the bi-directional antenna system. The BDA system, it's probably called. A BDA is a more recent code requirement that basically allows, it's a kind of a repeater system that allows emergency responders radios to work inside the building where they may not otherwise. It becomes especially important when you're doing things like going down into the basement. And lots of times without some kind of a booster system, their radios won't work and they end up kind of getting isolated down there.
Okay.
Typically what has to happen is that the building needs to be complete enough so that you can get a good idea about whether or not that system is going to be required. And then you need to do on-site testing. So typically what we'll do is that GGG will require the testing be done by the electrical contractor, and they will also include the BDA system in the documents. So you own both. And so they'll do the testing. And if the testing finds that the BDA is not required, then we will ask for a credit for the BDA system. There's really no good way to get around it because you can't really do the testing until the building is complete. Even a low E coating on the windows will change the results potentially of the BDA testing.
Okay. I had a question. Did our CTO, our town technology person, has he reviewed the plans for what you're proposing to give him or have done for him?
I haven't sent the documents to that person specifically, no.
Because I see a lot of this is, to me, is antique stuff that, you know, that the little drawings and stuff are and things like that versus what's going on today. And in his MDF room in the basement, we have his raised floor there that we talked about taking out. And then getting rid of all the space that's being occupied by the ramp to go from the ground up to the top of the floor. It makes an L shape in the room that's using up about a quarter of the room.
Yeah, we were recommending against that. And
Yeah.
I think
So
we,
yeah,
I think we had taken it off at this point.
yeah, and anyway, that is I just think a little bit more, if we could keep, I took a couple of pictures today of the current new, or I'm calling it new because it's the biggest I've seen now, for transformer pads. And, you know, they are going in and they have a precast unit that you can put in, but now their amount of bollards that are going around it are almost so close together you can't walk around it. And that is proposed right where the church has basically their walkway just to the right of it, going into the parsonage part of the church, the office part of the church and stuff like that. And to me, if we can use the existing pad and the existing conduits to increase the capacity if we need it. I know over at the new Wilcott building, we have 150 kW transformer there, and that takes up a lot of space. And the one at the town hall today is 150 kW. And I'm only assuming that you might have to raise it to 200 to 300 because they were designing the generator and stuff and the electrical capacity that could be done into that range of 300 kW. The generator they wanted was 300 kW. And the other thing is, if there's a note to say that you're supposed to put a 2-foot fire rating area in the electric room where the emergency smoke and heat detectors and all the rest of the stuff is going into the emergency lighting and stuff, all has to be in a separate area with that fire rating thing. And in the electric room looks like it's a little too small now. So I don't know, and it's only a comment that you have to do that, but I know that that's the case. And the requirement over there was to have a separate breaker and stuff off of a generator if it's on a generate power. So
We'll double check that with them.
okay, that's what I had today.
That's great, Wayne. Thank you.
The only other thing I'm wondering about is, and it's something that I think we really want to be careful of is, and it's something that no one can answer today, and that is what's going to happen with the bidding when it goes out at this point in time. As the COVID thing keeps going, and what's going to happen with the materials that we spec today and a building cycle. And should we be looking at a slight postponement to try to get, a little bit further into people not guessing or not even wanting to bid certain things because of the unknowns of, are we going to be able to get the materials on time? Are we going to be able to do this? This is, what will the price be? And it keeps changing. Whatever group of things are it's just going, and I'm a little in the construction business and I just see it every single day. With the labor shortage in the construction business is probably one of the worst today. And that means people have to pay more money to get everything done. So in 6 months, is the climate going to be different? Is it going to be a better time?
Wayne, just to kind of support that decision, I feel I'm living it every day. There's not enough people. People don't even, you throw more money at them, they still don't want to work. The material is a disaster. And I am in support of us not so much shifting just maybe approaching the timeline and looking at it from a little bit different of a perspective, and readjusting our timing to get through some of these labor shortages, these material shortages, let things start to level out just a little bit. I also think from a funding standpoint, we were originally given a charge to have this be within the operating budget. We presented a budget, a project that we felt was very efficient. Obviously tweaks here and there can still be made, but we don't have, when you add in all of the soft costs and everything that goes along with it, it's really at the upper end. And this is even in the 2020 dollars that we estimate. We're really at the upper end of what is even conceivably possible without any disasters from within the operating budget. From what it sounds like we're getting, again, I haven't crunched the numbers here myself and would rely on others, but it seems like based on the conversations that that's what's happening. And maybe there's a support to, I even chatted with Michelle before this about it, of a different way to approach this and possibly looking at this with other town projects and coupling it with other town projects from a debt perspective. I think we have to recognize that we have a couple of select members that are not necessarily against the project, but they're not for us funding from the operating budget, whether it's going to deplete an operating budget, put too much stress on the operating budget, whether they don't think it's possible, whatever the reason may be. We have I would say at least a couple of Board of Select members that are in that camp. And then with all that, I think that just from a timing perspective, I think we've gotten into some of these weeds quite a bit. I think we have more to go from making the drawings iron tight, but I don't think we've really addressed I think we've said it once or twice to the people of the town of why we need this, and answer some of the common questions. I think we've said it once or twice. I think we need to say it 10, 20 times because I don't think people understand it. I keep getting asked by different people and they don't understand why it costs so much. They don't understand why it is why we can't just do a partial renovation. So I think we need to continue to beat these things and continue to sell this job, not necessarily take the time right now to, we got to look at it from a sales perspective, like we're selling the job from why are we doing this, to also take more time to air out some of the things that Wayne is seeing, to make sure that we have everything right, because I just don't think that we are going to be there for May. And then there's the how much money it's going to take. Which is another conversation. And truthfully, respecting everybody's position on the committee, there's only two of us, Garrett and I, that actually have kids that are going to be going through the schools. And I think there's a perception right now that this committee is made up of an older generation, that it's not that the people on this are not as concerned about the schools, which I don't think is true. But I just think that there's maybe a perception out there. We have to recognize that there's maybe a perception out there that exists. And I think we just got to be cognizant of that. People think that because we're going to do the town hall, that we're giving up our financial resources as a town for something that could be going towards the schools. And so we need to address that. It's real. And I know we kind of, we all know here in this committee that we're doing great things, but I don't think the other folks on the outside see the value there. They don't see the HVAC conversations that we're having. They just see this huge price tag and go, why? I never even go there. What's the point? And so I think we really need to find ways to sell this, not as a want, but as a need. All right, I'm off my soapbox. I'm going to go back.
No, thanks, Mark. First of all, we were not charged with paying for this town hall within a town budget. We are not charged with anything to do with funding this project at all. Our charge is to make it as efficient, cost-effective as we possibly can. And selling the project, that's very important. That will come up probably March, April, where we really have to focus, once we find our schedule, when this is going to be presented to the town, where we really have to focus on selling the project and making sure that we reiterate what we did in last May, almost a year ago, and do some representing. And I guess I'm a little offended that you're saying that we're all old on here.
I didn't say that. I did not say that. You were just, your kids have already gone through the school. And again, I think it's,
So wait a minute.
I'm
So,
thinking about this.
So I'm more concerned about school systems and where they're going to be in 10 years, because I'm going to have a grandchild and
Correct. And
hopefully many more going into it. So,
and I think that's part of the sell. And I know Carolyn's trying to get something, but it's part of the sell. And your daughter also works in the school. I mean, it's not, that's my point, is that there's this perception. And again, I said, this isn't where I'm coming from. I feel like I'm the conduit here as bringing this message to the table. Carolyn, I'm thinking about Carolyn. Carolyn, she's on the trustees of the library. Clearly, education is important to Carolyn. So if you're we just got to then find ways to sell that, right? And so we've got to.
President of the Education Foundation.
Yeah. So again,
I think you're bringing up great points, but I do have a question with regard to the delay. The idea of delaying. I mean, it may not even be an option, but I definitely hear what you and Wayne are saying. And I guess my question is, I wish the Vertex guys were on, but I have two questions. One, we have constantly said the longer we wait, the more expensive it's going to be. And if we do delay, are we just setting ourselves up for it to be more expensive but less volatile, perhaps? And the second question is, the other thing that has pushed us in terms of timing is the fact that the building itself is in poor condition, and we don't want to invest anything more in fixing things in the existing building before doing this. And I just didn't know if Jason or Michelle maybe knows, are there things that need to be addressed like yesterday that that make this important to keep moving forward now?
So just to answer that question, I don't think that there's anything that is in need of repair within the next 6 months. They can't wait another 6 months. Would I say push this project off for another 2-3 years? No. I don't think the building could withstand that. However, 6 months to possibly a year, I think we'd be okay. And that's just my opinion. I'm not the facilities director. That's something I can ask him because he knows more about the systems. But I don't know if Jason is still on, whether he's had any conversations.
I would say agree with Michelle that there's nothing
Okay,
so pressing that it can't be held off for another 6 months.
Thanks, that's great. And so then go back to the first question in terms of costs. It may or may not save us some of the uncertainty with regard to today's market conditions and the volatility, but realistically, can we expect prices to come down? That's,
I think you can expect some stabilization. I think obviously everything goes up over time. I don't think it can be the item that drives the boat here. I think it needs to be, I think the issue with right now with the demand is that there's not enough staff to fulfill it. So you've got somewhat of overinflated numbers in markets in some areas of work. I also think that, from a bidding standpoint, from having this as a project that's not actually funded hurts us, that the competition is less interested, there's less chances for them that there's more chances for them that they're going to put their resources to putting numbers together and the project that they don't get the project, whether it's that they didn't beat their competitor, or whether the project never got voted for at the ballot or town meeting, or whatever the nature of the vote is. So they've got two components. They've got to beat their competition, and they've got to rely that this is going to pass the town vote. And so if you were in their shoes and you had another job that you were going to bid that was funded, and all you had to do was beat your competition, you would probably put your resources towards that job versus the one that wasn't funded.
Steve, were your ears burning there, Steve?
I just said, I wish Vertex were on this call. And there you were.
I thought John was going to be on this call. If he wasn't, I apologize. I had a conflict, but I was wondering why my back was hurting.
So we've gone over a number of different points, but the current one, you may have just heard the end of it, was concerns about the current market. Whether it's the supply chain or issues with staffing. Do we see any benefit to delay the project? I guess from your position.
Well, I mean, if we're not ready with the timing that we have, you run risk of having issues with it. I did hear what Mark was saying as far as bidding goes, and I have had contractors ask me whether the project is funded yet or not. I don't know whether that dissuades them, but it may a little bit.
The suggestion was if we wait, it might take some of the current market craziness, might stabilize. And if there's more certainty, then the bidders might be more confident in their numbers and not feel like they need to build in for potential spikes in prices or unavailability of materials or labor or something like that, in which case maybe we'll get better numbers later, as opposed to not being ready.
And that could be the case, but that's sort of been like the $64,000 question that we as in our industry has been talking about for the last 2 years now, is when is this going to level out? Is it going to go away? We know it's never necessarily going to go back down to what it was, I don't think, pre-pandemic. Obviously rates and trade rates, wage rates are always going to go up. That's regardless of the pandemic. But the material cost and the lead times on things, that's been fluctuating all over the place for the last couple of years. I mean, we've all heard the horror stories about roofing materials, more the flat roofs than the shingles. But deliveries are 6-8 months away. Electronics. We on another project, it was glulam beams that came up as being a potential long lead item. Just sort of an oddball thing. So it could, or something else could come up. It's just, if you had that crystal ball, you'd make a lot of money.
Correct. And I support Steve's comments there. And we don't really know. None of us have that crystal ball. But the other half of this, Steve, that you had missed before you jump back on was the whole side is, aside from the bidding and the costing, is just the being ready to present this as a town. There's a whole social side of it where there's the perception of the older generation versus the younger generation, the schools, the competition for the money within town against the schools. And there's all these things that we've addressed and touched on a little bit, but we haven't really driven these things home. We haven't basically sold the job to the town as to why we even need this. And to explain to them over and over and over again as to why the cost is what it is. The whole prevailing wage subject, the soft costs, all of that stuff. Again, we've said it once, but I think we need to say it over and over and over again because I continue to hear it. And I just don't think that we have actually sold that to everybody in town. And I think we need more time to get people to understand that, possibly put together a strategy with some other more attractive things and maybe bundle this financially with some other attractive things within town that people that are looking for ball fields and school stuff get. And then it's a little bit of a common goal there, and they don't feel so much like it's two camps, the old and the young.
Well, here's the thing too, is we, unfortunately, we spent a lot of time on the geothermal aspect. That was a lot of concentration on that, a lot of time expended on that. And I know Phil and his team moved forward as much as they can in other areas, but we never really, besides, I know we have the social media part of it, but we haven't had any real kind of public information sessions that we have talked about, Mark, which I think is part of what we would, at one point we were intending doing to sell this project and sort of go through the explanation, in presentation style and get people to potentially come and ask questions, and you get more as a project gets closer. We had something 6 months ago, you probably wouldn't have got anybody except people for it. But we really haven't got there yet because we sort of didn't know which way the HVAC was going to go. I think we do now, even with the little exercise we had last week. But I think we're, and I'm assuming you guys discussed that. I think we're back to where we are, but the marketing end of it, I don't think it's really taken off yet.
Mark, I think you have some great suggestions, but I think that to Phil's point earlier, that's not our purview, and but those concerns should be shared with perhaps the Board of Selectmen, the Select Board, and and strategizing with them. I mean, that's really their call, with advice from capital budget. But I think your concerns are well-founded, and if they want this to be a success, they're the kinds of things that they need to hear. So, but it's out of our hands.
We should modify the documents like C 2.1 that's showing the geothermal wells all connected up and stuff like that. So if we've decided we're not going to go that, we really should erase that information off of our drawings.
Yeah, they've already started on stuff like that.
I mean, I think it's also important to put together a strategy here. We all felt that the contract delivery conversation was late for what we should have been having. We should just approach this with our spring town meeting, special town meeting, time when it goes to if it's going to take on debt, whether it be excluded or what's the other one again? Excluded in whatever. That goes to the vote in May if it requires that. So just going through all of those steps and how we expect we would be able to, from a timeline perspective, deliver the project.
Well, from our point of view, I would say that I can't imagine that if you waited a little while, that the prices are going to go down. I think you're right in that volatility may flatten out a little bit, but that's a risk. And my guess is that prices will continue to creep up, even if volatility does settle down a little bit. We had a very similar discussion on a project that we bid 6 months ago or so out in Western Mass. We had the same conversation about whether we should hang on and wait for volatility to go down. And they eventually decided to move ahead. I think when I looked at the bid results, I think what we saw in the results were that there was a little bit more volatility or a little bit more range in the bid prices. Some were high and some were low. Typically our documents are on the average are pretty tight. And so we typically have pretty close groupings with our bid results. And there was a little bit more range in them. And I think that volatility shows up in the reactions from the different contractors. And so, but you're really only interested in one number, and that's the low number. And so if there are some folks that are concerned because they're having supply chain issues and so forth, and then there are others that think that there's a way that they can manage them by working with us and so forth, then their prices will reflect that. The contractor who got this particular project is about a 24,000 square foot new library building out in Greenfield, Mass. Pretty big contractor. And I think they felt like they could work with us to move some of those things ahead and to help with some of the lead time delays and risks. And what that really meant is that they needed to lean on us a little bit to do things like select colors on products a little earlier in the process than we normally would. We're not usually picking out what color the windows are going to be before they put the foundations in the ground. We normally have a little bit more time to do that, but they were pressing us to do just that. And so we needed to do an exterior color package earlier on. Now we needed the submittals in order to be able to do that, and they understood that and they got them to us, and we were able to put together a color package for the exterior of the building, again, before the foundations went in. So I think there's ways to do it, and I think there probably will be some volatility, but that probably just means, as I said, you'll get some high numbers and some low numbers, and we really are only interested in those low ones. I'm not sure that hanging around and waiting for things to calm down will necessarily translate into a lower bid price, even if it does help to settle the market a little bit.
No, but I think it'll, I don't want to perceive here that I think that if we wait that the number is going to come down. I think that it'll give us some more predictability, stability, and time to get all of our ducks in a row. I think is what it really, because I just don't see us being ready, to sell this to the town and a few other things, but.
I think in the same time, it is worth trying to have as many fine points done, meaning, having the plans almost, so you talked about colors and stuff like that, but certainly materials and stuff that a contractor could go ahead and, order now, and you're gonna be sure to pay them for the materials that when they arrive on site, he has them. And if he has them 2 months ahead of time, that's great, and has some more flexibility. But I think there are still some things in the plans and stuff that aren't to me. And I just had another one was there's no electrical for the auditorium or the stage area that's in our plans. No, nothing new. And I'm saying to myself, are we going to keep the 50 or 60 or 70-year-old wiring that's in the stage and the stage lights and that infrastructure there? Are we going to keep that in a brand new stage and auditorium? I think not. I think that that we should be looking at something like that on our plans and saying, either we have an allowance for lighting or something, or we have something. Now, in the past, we've said, well, the dramatic club will go ahead and participate and do some of these things. If that's the case, maybe we should be involving them more and to be able to have this package that I think is something that's missing from our plans right now. Any comments?
Well,
The engineers are aware that they need to include the electrical in the stage. Initially, yes, their understanding was that it wasn't part of it, but it is.
So we have had that conversation with them, and the documents that you're looking at, 75%. And so, you know, by definition, 25% of what needs to be there isn't. And so we appreciate your time and everybody's time when looking at these documents. And I know sometimes it can be aggravating to look at progress prints because not everything will be there. But I do appreciate the time that it takes to look through them, and to give us that feedback will be really helpful. So I'm hoping to get a copy of the emails. I scribbled down a couple pages of notes as you went through them, Wayne, and I'd like to just double check them against the email and make sure that we have everything, and we'll go through this with the engineers. But since the 75% documents were done, they have continued, and a lot of the things that I think that we have talked about, and you may have mentioned, they've already moved ahead on, and I know that we have on our documents as well. And I will tell you, in the last week or so, we have slowed down a little bit because we weren't quite sure if we were going to have to kind of pull up stakes and start on a new mechanical system. But based on the decision tonight, at the earlier part of this meeting, I was assuming that we were going to go zooming ahead starting tomorrow morning. But based on the conversation now, I think that remains to be seen. We'll need a decision from you all whether or not you think you'd like to delay. I guess one of the options could be that you could go to the Maytown meeting with a cost estimate versus a bid. But you know, that's kind of a completely different plan. I'm not sure what the other solution would be. You could wait till the fall, or you could do a special town meeting.
I mean, I think that's something for us to discuss is what our plan of attack would be, but I don't think there's any reason to stop drawing. I think if anything, I mean, you know, now you're not in a position where your head is being held in the fire, and you know, and I think
Just next to it.
just next to it. So
yeah, we work the best with our hair on fire.
okay, then let's put it on fire. Let's get it. Let's have them done by the end of the month. But I think that there's no reason to stop drawing. I don't think this stops. I don't think this stops. We're not looking to stop the project. I think it's
Strategizing.
just keep going, because we need to drive through these answers. We need to make sure that every single one of Wayne and everybody else's questions on through a page turn is solved. And when we go through that, we want to have something that's ironclad. You know, we haven't done a page turn. At some point we should do a page turn, but I don't see any reason to stop drawing.
Right. And I think that I was a little upset when I asked for something, and then I got the term is that, well, we were at 90% and it's too late to make any changes. I don't think it's too late to make good changes.
I think you're right. If there's something that needs to be, yeah, if there's something that you all want to incorporate, we'd like to hear about it. You know, some things are going to be easier to accommodate at this point than others. And based on your suggestions, we'll certainly advise you of that. As we did with the HVAC, we could certainly make that change, but you know, we let you know that it was probably going to, there's to be some additional fee and some time. Smaller changes, I don't think there's going to be fee money involved, but it may have a time impact, and it may have a construction cost impact as well. And then we ought to talk about those things before we move ahead.
Good. One of the little things that I put in the last time, but I got an absolute no, and I'd like the rest of the people to think about it a little bit more. as I went through the plans, there's quite a bit of stuff that's going to be in the attic of the town hall. And to have that hatchway instead of a way to get up there, just even for the tradesmen to be able to get up there, but be not just the sprinkler heads and stuff like that, but there are wiring and there's lights that are going to serving the second floor from the thing, and putting up a little 2-foot wide little walkway to get up the attic. It just makes sense to me, instead of having to get a ladder, climb up and go through a 2x2 hatch to get up to the ladder of the old town hall. And it might even be lucky, you could probably connect that onto the attic of the town hall addition. And I just think that I'd like to see, if you could make something like that happen, if the rest of the board thinks it's important. And maybe it's not there, maybe it's on the other end of the building, over where the fly loft or whatever they call it is above the stage. I don't know, but I just think that we're going to have finished space up there, and I'm not even sure how that's even whether the hatch is going to be in the middle of the stairway going down or not.
I think the hatch location is pretty much where it is right now, and it's out of that storage mechanical space that's where it goes now. And
because I thought it was finished space. They were talking about having to relocate the stairway or do something, but I didn't.
Yes, the stairway on the second floor down to the first has changed. But you have a couple of levels up in there, right? There's a lower floor out in the section out in the front on the newer portion of that old building. And then there's kind of another floor above that area that kind of tucks in between, and a bunch of little floors in between where the vaults all are, right? We're going to clarify that a little bit, and that you'll only have a couple of different floors instead of lots. But then there's kind of a storage space up there, and then there's the attic itself.
Right.
And access to both of those. The first one is going to be similar to the way it is right now with a small stair, and then access to the upper one is going to be with a ladder and a hatch. We can improve the ladder and the hatch, but I don't know that it's worth doing much more than that, than providing access for a mechanic or for a firefighter to go up there and do an inspection. And connecting the attic spaces or catwalk spaces over the new addition into the existing, I don't think that there's a way through there to do that effectively without, I don't think there's an effective way to get through those spaces with the amount.
So on the others, on the new space, you're going to have another where you're taking out a ceiling tile and going up that way.
Yes, right,
Even
out of
the mechanical equipment up there and
one
everything.
of the storage rooms, so you can get up there and maintain that equipment. That's right. From the second floor. Yep.
I would say you definitely got to do something about the ladder going up to the old town hall attic. That's a
I don't think we
treacherous
would-
climb. I've done it a million times doing tours.
Yeah, I
It
don't
definitely
think we
needs to
would-
be improved.
I don't think we're leaving that wooden leftover 1x6.
And
together with nails.
the door that falls open once you push it open.
Yeah, that is just a piece of wood that lays over the hole, right? We'll upgrade that a little bit for you, but we don't have a stair or a ship's ladder or anything going up there. We didn't think it was worth.
Pull down staircase.
Yeah, just about to say the same thing.
Yeah, you certainly could. If that's what you'd like, we could probably get a pull down stair that will do that.
I think you probably want something more industrial, like one of the bolted to the wall metal ladders that goes up to the hatch and through with, if you need to put a pole for grab pole at the top, then do that. But I don't think you want to put wooden stairs up there if equipment guys are going up and down.
We've done aluminum pull down stairs on other projects, but the ladder is still fairly narrow.
Right. And
So
Even if you do a ship's ladder, it's only 2 feet.
the vertical ladder also gives you the opportunity to be able to lift something straight up. So if you need to, rig something and pull it straight up, you can do that. Whereas the folding ladder can get in the way, and you end up having to pump it up, by hand.
Yeah, you got to think about what's your largest thing that you may need to get up there.
Right.
A firefighter?
Typically, it's a firefighter
with a
with
Scott
oxygen.
pack on, yeah.
I think the discussion is that the access is very important to the mechanicals, and we should find out a little bit better solution than just a hatch. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, we will look into that for you then.
We got 25% available.
Just to, I wanted to comment, you said that, maybe we can go from new addition attic to the existing building. We can't really do that because there is just not enough headspace. And that's the only little connection we have is used for ducts to travel through. So there's just really no space.
But I think a page turner would be a good idea. We give us an opportunity to
I
kind of go
think
through
so.
these smaller items and make sure that people aren't surprised when they come into the building and say, why does it look like that?
Have you talked about having a page turner with fire and building and?
We didn't talk about
Historical.
that tonight. No.
Okay.
Yeah. And with the fire chief, you've put in 3 new fire hydrants to serve this building. And I think with the sprinkler system, that's sort of overkill and another place where we could save some money.
There's 2 new and 1 existing right on the corner of the driveway.
Yeah.
That was one of my comments.
Yeah. But there are 2 in the parking lot that just don't make sense.
Yeah, we'll ask about them.
But each of these things are like, $50,000, $25,000. They add up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so we'll find out what they're thinking when they put them in.
Right.
Okay, anything else, Wayne? Any other?
I don't want to give it anymore because a couple are coming to my head and I want to stop.
Yeah, put them in that email. And we'll make sure that we track
I'm
them.
on page 3 already. No, but I really appreciate having the opportunity to be able to point out some of these things that.
No, as you said, I'd much rather do it now than during construction.
Yeah. And the less change orders you have, the better.
Yes, yeah.
That's where the contractor makes all their money.
And Vertex will be doing a constructability review also of the package, so we'll have comments.
Yeah. Let me know when you do that. I'd like to come over. All right, I thank everybody.
All right, great. Any other comments on that part of it? I have a project schedule here, excuse me, listed on the agenda. I think that the Judge General schedule was sent out a couple of weeks ago, or maybe just before the holidays. Do we have them?
Phil, it's Michelle. I think that purpose of that line item was really to discuss whether or not we should slow the project a bit and strategize for annual town meeting versus special town meeting, which I think that discussion has already happened.
Yep, I think that's fine. All right, thank you, Michelle. Good, so it's clear that we're not slowing down the design team, right? You got that message?
I got that message. We're just going to move right ahead. Yep.
Okay, good. Next thing I have on here is public information sessions. We did talk about that in the fall, and we got kind of sidelined with Geo and so forth. This is something we wanted to do. I'm not sure what the forum is going to be. Everything is moving back inside, back on Zoom or some of the other online meeting venues. Any discussion on how we proceed with this, where we proceed with it, and maybe subjects who we invite type of thing?
we have in the past certainly made presentations, 15, 20 minutes and kind of walk folks through the design, let them know what's included in the scope. And then typically folks are going to want to know how much it's going to cost, and we could certainly include that as part of the show. We can kind of tag team that with Vertex, and then just open it up for questions. And there'll be some questions that I think would be probably best answered by us, and there's others that I think Vertex would do a good job on. And then there are questions I'm sure that are going to come in that that committee members would probably be best suited to answer. But we've done those live, and we've done them on Zoom. We're comfortable doing them either way.
Phil, I think that what you did for the Second Congregational Church with regard to the Windows project worked really, really well. And that doing something like that first, I guess, for the Historical Commission and the Cohasset Common Historic District would be great, but something akin to that for the public might work well as well. It's just a matter of whether or not anyone shows up. We did not have such good luck 3 years ago when we were, or 4 years ago now, when we were trying to get the public to come and see what the plans were and why they were important.
Can we do a 3D walkthrough at all of the building?
Well, that will take a little time to create, and then it depends on what you'd like it to look like. Photorealistic would be an expensive undertaking. We could do it a little bit more cartoony.
We have saved some views of the interior model that we have. It would have to be changed up a little bit and updated because that model has aged a little bit since the last time it was done.
Yeah, the views that we have are pretty good, but if we were to take that model and try to do a walkthrough, doing it live or running a video over Zoom can get really laggy. And
I was thinking of pre-packaging something that we could post on the web or something like that.
Okay, we have certainly done that in the past, but again, it's not a small undertaking. It's going to take somebody, a week to put together. So there's a fair amount of time involved in getting that done, and then we need to find somebody that's available for a week to do that. So it's not something that I can turn around really quickly, but I could certainly look into that for you and let you know what it would take.
I think we've got enough artwork and stuff that you could almost put what you have already with the floor plans and a couple of things. That slide with the entrance with the large light was, very nice, and just used maybe 8 or 10 different pictures.
Yeah, we would definitely include stills like those in our show that we would, the presentation that we would make for an information session, a forum.
So the virtual flyover that we did of the town hall for last May's public meeting was really good. I mean, I know that took some time, cost us some money, but so it's a great visual representation of what we've designed to go in there. I kind of like the idea of the 3D walkthrough. I don't know how complicated that is. I think any of these presentations that we do will probably be packaged so that they can be accessed at other times other than our one presentation time. That's typically how these presentations go now with Zoom. They're put probably up on our town hall building page so that people can look at them if they're up at 3 o'clock in the morning, or if they don't work in the middle of the day or whatever, but they can be accessed at any time would be the point of that.
Can we do that on 143 as a presentation so that people can go later?
As a live presentation?
Yeah, the first copy would be live, but after that, it's going to be recorded. So
yeah, I don't know. I'd like to hear what
so
Tucker has to say about this if he has any suggestions on presentation, how we might do it, where we might do it. Tucky, you there?
I'm here.
Awesome.
I think that I like the idea of posting a visual medium that people can look through. I think that helps to contextualize the project a lot. So whether it's a video or just a series of slides, you can kind of go through to see the drawings and stuff. I think that's really interesting and a place you can leave comments. So I think that would be a really effective visual media to post on Facebook. I also agree with Mark, though. I do think maybe we could have a few more sell the project posts as well. Just help support that. But I think that would be great overall. And I am happy to help in any of the outreach that we want to do. Happy to, if you need someone to brainstorm and work on that, more than happy to. I've talked to quite a few people, but certainly no one super recently, because we haven't really been looking any feedback of late, but I definitely have some irons in the fire if we wanted to call on some of those people.
That would, I'm sorry, people for what?
For outreach, to see if we could get them to come to our events and stuff. So if we were going to have an event, having people that it may be interesting or pertinent to get their recommendations on. So like, we spent a lot of time talking with Jackie. We talked with the Rusty Skippers. We talked with the / Dramatic Club. There's a lot of people like that we could get at least to come. Mm-hmm. Hopefully a friend, but at least if we could get the people who have given us feedback to come and see how we've responded to it, I think that would be effective just for word of mouth.
Great idea. I like that.
So I have a couple concerns about the
Sure.
approach that we're taking. It's just, I think that we're going to struggle to get people to come to us. I don't think that people really have an appetite for coming and listening to a forum, hearing us give a presentation. I don't think they're going to be looking around on Cohasset 143 for this information. I think we need to bring the information to people, because otherwise it's just going to be falling on deaf ears, or not even falling on any ears. And I don't know what the best way to do that is. But I think that we need to step back, and this isn't a marketing campaign to make this project look as appealing or as flashy as we think we can make it, because I actually think that may, if anything, turn people off. Some of the feedback that I've received from people is that they view this as a vanity project for this committee. Okay. You can laugh about it, but that's what I've heard, that people think, well, why are you building this fancy town hall? You guys just want this to be your legacy, right? It's a joke. But that's what people think, or some people think. And there are more people that think like that than I think that any of us on this call really appreciate.
Yeah.
There also still is a sense that, why do we need a new town hall? What's the matter with the building that's there? Why can't we repair it? These questions that I know we've been through and we've looked into, and I try to explain it to people that these are things that we've considered. I don't think that they resonate yet with a lot of people. And then to Mark's point, there is a concern that taking on this project is going to hamper the ability of the town to do additional projects in the future. So I think that we need to figure out how to communicate that to the townspeople. And frankly, it's the people who I think we're going to have the most resistance from are the people who are probably, Mark and my peers. They're the ones who I've been hearing this pushback from. And I don't think they're going to show up for meetings that we can set up. Thoughts that I've had, when I say bring the message to where these people are, where they're at Milliken Field on Saturday mornings. I don't know if there's a way that we could even just do something like set up a table, these sorts of things, for town soccer games. That's where these parents are, and that's where we can talk to them. We can hand out information sheets, even if it's just a piece of paper that they can look at on their own time. I just don't think that, trying to get people to come to us is going to work.
Good. Mark?
I agree with that. And, again, I don't think it's showing people more layouts and pictures, because I think people that are looking at that, if they've seen that, are buying into that. I think it's like Garrett has said again. I mean, it's the people in our generation here that it's not that they're against it. They think it's holding us back from other things, and we need to take that head on and fight that. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to get voted through. In fact, one comment that was asked to me about the layout was, well, why is Cohasset 143 TV in there? Why does that need to be in there? And we went through that, but it's answering things like that. We just gotta take the ugly questions and we gotta literally face them head on.
Can you put out a frequently asked questions?
Well, we have,
notice?
we got to do this.
And how do you get it to
over and
people? Do you
over
put it
again.
in the mail?
We had the Zoom information session. I think we got 2-3 people to join that. There was nobody there.
We published it frequently at the questions in the Mariner.
Yeah, and we should
Mariner,
probably do it again, because maybe people didn't read it that week. So maybe take 1 or 2 of these questions at a time and do a little Facebook, do a video and throw it up on a site where it's just ask the question. Corey does his little bits on, and again, they need to be short, because if they're long, people tune out. But if you can keep them, keep a little video, a little snippet, and put it out there, maybe people will continue to see it, continue to share it, and get folks to understand why we're all really here. We're not here for a vanity project. We're not here because we love to hang out at town hall. We're here because the building is falling down. It's going to cost, there's a business decision here to invest money into this building so that we don't continue to throw money at a useless cause. And, it's what keeps our town running. It's a hub. I mean, we all spend a lot of tax money to go somewhere. And where does it land? It lands at town hall to then be redistributed amongst the town. And without that hub, nothing runs. The schools don't run. Nothing runs. So it's just, again, it's selling the need here.
Those great points. We just have to find a way to communicate to the public our responses to their concerns. I guess that would be the best way to put it.
Yeah, and I guess it would probably be, trial and error. See what's getting responses. See what's working. Continue to try things. Put stuff up at Milliken. Put stuff up on Facebook. Put it in the Mariner time and time again. Try and get these things to, again, I don't think it's a answer one question one time and we've done our job. I think it's answer the same questions over and over again to get these people, because you're only going to reach a small portion each time. Quite frankly, it's not a topic that people really care to dive into and seek out. So we got to beat them over the head with it and put it in front of them and hope that they see it.
So Phil, at what point would you put a presentation together for the public, typically in a process here? Can't hear you.
Sorry. Typically, we take guidance from you all. We've done them at various points, but it's not uncommon to do an information session toward the end of schematic design. And then it's not uncommon to do an information session in the months leading up to a town vote. And we've done, you're right. We do a variety of building types, and things like public libraries typically will get a pretty good turnout. Things like town halls, typically not as much. I think that's pretty standard. I don't know how, what you've kind of run into, Steve. There doesn't seem to be as much interest to get people kind of out of their house and to a public forum. I think a Zoom meeting sometimes gives folks the opportunity to be able to kind of tune in and listen without having to kind of go through the trouble of going somewhere. But we have done a variety of things. You know, and lots of times we end up providing kind of support materials, and folks are doing things like, you know, going out to the ball fields and so forth. We've certainly provided people with information so that they could go do that as well. A couple of situations like this where there isn't a good understanding about what's happening in the existing building or why we need to do that. We've helped give tours. You know, you bring folks through, but again, you know, you're relying on them to kind of come out, and you may set something up and have a bunch of us standing around, and you may only get 2 people to come. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't do it. I think because invariably, no matter how much you do and how many people come, there's going to be somebody that stands up at town meeting and say, oh, you know, what's the hurry? I've never even heard of this before. How come this is getting shoved down our throats tonight? I haven't even heard about this until tonight. Now you're asking me to vote on this. It doesn't matter how much you do. Someone's going to stand up and say that. But to be able to respond to them and say, we've had a number of sessions and this is what they were, and this is how we advertise them, can help. But I don't think there's any magic bullet for the best way to do it. It won't take us too long to put something like that together. If you want to schedule something, we're happy to join.
I just looked back at the frequently asked questions sheet we put out, and that was set up for a May forum, which is I mean, for all intents and purposes, we're almost a year ago at this point. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you know, it's fallen off, and you know, part of that is because we've been tied up with other things, trying to make decisions. But you know, and to answer and to respond to what Phil was saying, yeah, I mean, we had another project where, you know, for a fire station, and we held a public information session in the apparatus bay, and there was probably 3 times as many people from the design and the firefighters than actually showed up. But you still go through it because, you know, like Phil said, you can say, well, we had a public information session on such and such a date, for the people that say, I never heard about this. But you know, you tend to ramp it up more as you're getting closer to a vote date, because you know, if you tell someone you're going to go to fall town meeting and you're having a public information session in January, they're not going to go, because they'll say, I'll go later. You know, you tend to see the numbers of people start to uptick the closer you get to the you know, the town meeting and the ballot vote, or you know, however it's set up. And usually the one just before it is when you have the most attendance, and that's where you have the ones that are really starting to ask the questions, because they're not necessarily the ones that have been on the team all along, which are usually the people that show up initially. They're already for the project. You know, you want the people that are on the fence, so that you can convince them, you know, or explain to them, you know, the necessity. And like we said before, when you do get to the, you know, to the time frame of voting or going to town meeting, that's when you really want to rally the troops. You want to get in touch with everybody you know and say, show up and vote, you know, and, you know, however you have to do that. I mean, you know, in Situate, it was the senior center. They rallied all the senior citizens and got them out there to, you know, to vote that in. You know, it was still close, but it passed. So those are some of the things we got to do. And, you know, the Facebook entries and so forth, that, you know, that's all good, but not everybody's on Facebook.
We can set up a story time there on the common, like the books, and tell the story of why we need a new town hall. It's great. You walk around there, you see the little things in the trees, in the Christmas tree stands, and they're very unique. But we just got to think of ways to get out there. We just got to put it in front of people respectfully. You know, we don't want to litter Milliken Field with 1,000 flyers that flew away in the wind, and now we're the evil people. We just littered all over town. Like, but we just got to come up with creative ways to get people, and it's going to be a mixture of everything. I don't think that I think we have to realize that there isn't one single solution. Like, we can just create a presentation and hit play in front of people, and it's just going to magically happen. You know, I don't know how at town meeting we can take that avenue to have people there that will use that as a forum to get our message out there. I think it's going to be a mixture of everything, because everything is going to have different outreach to different groups of people.
And I've said it before, you know, the big question that's going to be asked is, how much is it going to cost me, you know, as a resident?
Yeah.
And we got to have an answer, or at least an explanation if we don't quite know, or a range or something.
And depending upon the timeline, if you are going to go to fall or after annual, the farmers market is probably a good spot to camp a table out at and have somebody man it and talk to the people that come.
But does somebody really want to talk to us, or do they want to just should we just put it in front of them? I mean, are we going to answer questions all day long, or do we create that material that can hit these things and give them an avenue to reach out if they do have a question? I don't know. I mean, everyone, you go to the farmer's market, you always avoid the guy selling windows at the farmer's market. I feel like we're the window selling people. Like, no, if I wanted a window, I'd call you.
Maybe you got to have giveaways.
Or the protecting of the gutters. Either way, it's just like you go the other way. Anything to not talk to those people. And I don't want to be those people.
Maybe you should be a little happier out there, Mark, and people will want to talk to you. I go out and talk to Katie Holden, and she's talking about the environment and whatnot. So you just got to open your mind, Mark, when you're out there.
We have in some communities, where there is good attendance or views for the selectmen's meeting, the select board, we have sometimes made an information or a status presentation to them. And then you get a fair amount of people that are watching that. And then you could also take that opportunity to mention, you know, when the public forum is coming up, or whatever other public outreach you're doing. And you can maybe catch some additional people that way.
I mean, if we're going to do something on the farmers market, I mean, one possibility just to make it a little bit more appealing or interesting. I don't know if we have anything like this, but like if there were like interesting items from like town archives or something like that we could like bring out and sort of use that as an opportunity to show the history of the building, like show, you know, like old pictures and things like that, and talk about like what we want to do to revitalize the town hall and sort of make a new history going forward for the next 50, 100 years.
You know, it might be a good idea is to do something like that. I wonder if there's a way to decorate the hall in the downstairs of the town hall so that if people are coming into the building over the next 4 months, you know, they can see, we can point things out, you know, just, you know, like you say, with a storybook thing, but inside the town hall itself for people who come there as one of the things that we do, tell the story that way, you know, since people are there, or if there's an office that's not being used on the first floor, haha.
I know one of the things I thought was pretty interesting was, I think Tucker found it back when we were trying to do the cultural grant, was like Humphrey Bogart played
at
the town hall.
But
So
I don't even mean
your
like
point-
the history.
No,
You're
but I'm
putting
saying-
some history, but
but get something under the table like that, like you're saying, like something that somebody cares about, like, oh, Humphrey Bogart was here. What was he doing in Cohasset? And
But-
then,
But the problem is the people that have kids aren't gonna care. That's the problem, is they're not gonna care. That's great. And we're just gonna divide ourselves further from them
let's speak
Right,
to the
be-
old.
because it's different. I mean, I ended up at the special town meeting there, I ended up in the baseball section, and when what's his name? It was on our committee. So in the beginning.
Ted?
No, he's on. No, the old Navy guy,
Fran.
Fran Collins.
Oh,
When Fran Collins got up there and started talking about the Farmer's Almanac, the people were just laughing at him and couldn't even relate to him. And that's what the problem is we're not speaking their language. Right. As soon as he said the Farmer's Almanac and he had the thing in his hand, they were gone.
Do we have to make a TikTok video or something?
Maybe. I mean, it's. I'm sure you'd get further with a TikTok video than Humphrey Bogart. In the, not
You
that
won't
it
get
isn't
further with
cool,
me
but
with
I'm
the
just.
TikTok. I think I'm jumping a generation.
Mark, maybe you do a TikTok video on the stage of Humphrey Bogart, okay? That's what you should do. You.
Okay. I'm gonna go back on mute.
All right. I haven't had dinner yet. How about a motion to adjourn?
I don't know if there's anything else that the design team of Vertex has to bring up for the next steps. Is there anything you need from us?
I don't think so at this point. We know how to get in touch though.
I think the big key is to make sure we get everybody, if anybody has any comments like Wayne's, make sure you get them to Michelle ASAP. Period. Hard stop. The time is over for comments
Thank
after
you very much.
the end of the week.
That would be terrific.
Good point. Thank you, Jason. Is there anything else?
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Can I think quickly? I don't know who is supposed to, how this gets done, but I've brought it up a couple times. We still don't have most of our minutes posted. And I know that's really not the concern of a lot of, but we do need to have them posted. There are definitely some people who that is bothering, who have commented. And some of our meetings keep getting posted under the wrong committee. So like tonight, our agenda was posted under the Town Hall Renovation Advisory Committee, which is not right. So our like data doesn't look right. So I know I'm not trying to like make a conversation out of it, but either I don't know who needs to do that, and I'm happy to do what needs to be done there. But to Michelle and Jason, who do we need to?
I have commented to the clerk's office about the posting issue. Michelle made a comment. We may have to officially abandon that. Why it still even exists, that's a separate question. But I did comment that needs to stop happening. But the meeting minutes, whoever's doing the meeting minutes, when they finally get signed, needs to give them to the town clerk's office.
Okay,
They have to be officially submitted once voted and signed by the clerk or the secretary. And
Yeah.
they need to be brought to the town clerk's office
Okay.
or emailed to the town clerk's office.
What do we need to do to just to get all those in? I just feel like that's a criticism we've heard before from the limited public that has reached out to us.
Sure.
So,
Yep. No, thanks for bringing that up. I did ask that at the very start of the meeting, if we had any to
oh, I'm sorry, I missed
approve,
a few.
but I think I know there's a couple out there that haven't been done
But
yet.
approving is the first step. Getting them to the town clerk's office is step number 2. Just because you approve them
Writing
doesn't
them
mean they
is the first step.
miraculously.
I haven't seen minutes in 6 months.
Yeah.
Has anyone been taking them?
I
I'm on tonight and I have the last set too. So
The last
they're-
two.
the two most
Awesome.
recent are me,
Yeah.
but that doesn't explain 6 months.
If
I don't-
anyone, any minutes between April 20th and now, we need to get those in. And we're also missing all of February and March too. So if anyone has those, we only have like 2 or 3 from this calendar year. I think we should just get them in if you've done minutes.
I mean, from last calendar year.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's a true statement from the
I
last.
think I think I have minutes, I think, that I may owe from March.
I did March 9th and March 16th.
Yeah, I
And
think
June
I owe
20
the.
We're missing March 16th. We have March 9th.
no, wait,
I
just a-
did June 22nd and July 13th and August 5th as well. And I submitted them to Michelle and Phil, but I don't think that they've been distributed for reading. I don't know.
The last ones we approved 5 of them. I'm not sure if they got posted or not. That would have been,
They definitely don't get posted unless somebody actually took and brought them to the town clerk's office, which I'm
Oh.
assuming based on this conversation, no one is.
okay. All right, so I'll check with Michelle. Or you, Jason, if you want to check with Michelle, that'd be great.
I will text her. She dropped off and she was gonna get back on, but she thought we were adjourning an hour ago, so she didn't come back.
And Jason, can you just help us get that? We still have a couple meetings, including tonight's, not posted in the right place. Can you help us, or should one of us help just get those moved to our actual committee? What is the best thing to do there?
I will shoot the town clerk an email again to remind them. The other note, just for the sake of officialness, the fact that it gets posted on the board is all that really matters. So legally, all our postings are kosher. If they're posted wrong on the website, it's not good, but it doesn't violate the open meeting law by having it posted in the wrong spot, just as a reference.
Yeah, no, totally agree. But we had someone one time tell us they couldn't find our meeting. So, okay.
No, that's a good point. I've been asked a couple of times if our meetings have been posted. I haven't in a while. My guess is that some of these things are going to get caught up and we'll get some more questions. So we do need to get that. All the meetings were asked or assigned, if you will, for someone to take notes, except for November and December. I think November was November 1st and December was maybe the 6th or the 8th. I think it was the 6th. So I think I've got notes on that, so I can do those too. But everything else should be in somebody else's capable hands. If we could get those printed up, sent over to Michelle, and then she can get them to the clerks, that'd be great.
Great.
Anything else? All right, someone want to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second,
Thank you very much for tonight. We'll see you soon. Be well.
enjoy your dinner, Wayne.
Aye.
Good night, all. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.